Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep.com, and today I'm going to show you how to install a new stereo in the Zombie Jeep. But first, check out my website, BleepinJeep.com. We've got all the best off-road videos on YouTube, none of the boring stuff. We have Jeep-related hats and t-shirts and hard-to-find parts like muffler bearings and that kind of stuff. Also, we have discount coupon codes. Do subscribe and check out the Facebook page as well. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so we're still rocking the tape deck in the Zombie Jeep here. If you don't know what a tape deck is, I feel really sorry for you. But we're going to put this new CD player in, and the first thing you'll want to do is remove the dash plate here so we can get access to the CD player. So first, you're going to take your screwdriver and undo a couple of screws here. It looks like there's not even any screws in this one. And there's a couple screws on the bottom, and make sure before you take it out that you pull this piece underneath the steering wheel here. It's just a little cover plate under the steering wheel, and you need to find a few more screws here. There's also some clips in there that just clip out. Looks like there's going to be one screw over here that I missed somewhere. Here it is. Alright, so once all your screws are out, you're just going to gently pull up from the top, lean it back a little bit, and it'll pop out just like that. And now we have access to everything. What I'll do is I'll remove these two screws and pull the tape deck out. Doesn't look like this thing has been out since this Jeep was born in 1990. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, I'm going to disconnect the negative from the battery. That way I don't short anything out. Alright, so I didn't show that, but I disconnected the negative battery cable so that I don't short anything out. And now you can go ahead and pull the tape deck out. If you're working on a different vehicle, then it's going to be pretty similar as far as changing the radio over to a CD player or whatever. The main difference is going to be how you get your dash apart. So each vehicle is going to be a little bit different on how you pull the dash. On this one, it looks like that's kind of stuck in there because of the clock. So I'm going to remove the clock. And to do that, there's just a couple screws here. Probably don't have to remove it, but just slide it over. And to do that, I'm going to take out this screw and one up top. There we go. Now I should be able to pull the tape deck out. Now on the back you're going to have some different wires depending on your setup. Sometimes there'll be a ground wire, and then you've got your clip, or your harness I guess it's called. That thing's kind of stuck in there. I'll have to get pliers or something. And then you've got this, which is the antenna. There we go, there's a little button. You press down, it unclips, and you can pull that out. Alright, so we got the stereo out, and that was the easy part. Now comes the hard part. As you know, manufacturers have to make everything difficult. And instead of using the same harness for every automobile and every stereo, where you could just plug and play, it's not quite that simple because every manufacturer has a different harness. So what we need to do is match this harness up to this harness so that we can plug this into your stereo. Now, if you've got a newer model car, you might get lucky and they might make an adapter harness that will just plug in right here, and then that harness will plug into your stereo. I couldn't find one for this model of Jeep, but if you can get a hold of one of those, it would make it so much easier on you. The only problem is they're pretty expensive, probably around $30 or $40, and depending on how much you paid for your stereo, that might be half the cost, or the full cost. So since I couldn't find it, what I'm going to do is splice, cut and splice. Now remember, the more times you change your stereo, the shorter these wires are going to get. So just keep that in mind when you start cutting on these. if you change your stereo 10 times over the course of 10 years, you want to probably cut down here, that way it gets longer. But I've had vehicles where this harness keeps on getting shorter and shorter, and finally you're trying to tie splice wires back in there, and it's not fun. So just make sure you don't cut these off too short. It looks like somebody has already been cutting and splicing wires before I got into here, so it's going to be fun trying to figure out where all these wires go. Alright, so like I thought, this wiring harness is a complete disaster. Half the wires have been cut out of here and spliced from previous owners. So let me show you what we're going to do. I got on this website, the 12volt.com. I'll leave the link in the description. But basically from there, what you can do is you can look up your vehicle year and model, and it will tell you all of the color codes to these wires and what they go to. For instance, this website told me that the pink wire is the constant 12 volt and the purple orange wire is the switched 12 volt, which means that comes on when you turn the ignition. And it's got all of the left and front and right and rear speakers colors listed on here. So what you can do with that is then take your stereo manual that you just got, and you can look up the wires on there. So what I've done is I've taken the colors from the website, and then I drew a little arrow over here to the colors for the stereo. So for instance, the pink wire from the Jeep will go to the yellow wire for the stereo. I'll just go down, connect all the wires in that list there, and then I should be able to just plug it in and it'll be good to go. Now, like I said, if you can get the wiring harness and yours isn't all chopped up like this, I would highly recommend getting the harness that just plug and plays directly to your stereo. But since this is already chopped up and everything, I'm just going to have to cut it up here and splice this harness in. Now, if you had to, you could use a multimeter to figure out where all of your wires went, but that would be a real pain in the butt to use a multimeter to figure out all of these wires. Let me show you another trick though, and that is to use a little 12 volt battery to find your speaker wires. You can tell by doing that the white wire and the black wire is the right front speaker. It doesn't really tell you which one is positive and which one is negative, and that's kind of important. Also, usually the wires will be like black and white and black and yellow and black for the speaker wires for the positive and negative. But in Jeep's case, they're just a hodgepodge of mix-match colors. And one other way to figure things out is sometimes on the back of your stereo it'll have a sticker that'll tell you what the colored wires go to, and in this case it does. But I think it's just easier to use the website, write everything down on paper like I did here. Alright, so I've used my wire stripper and I've stripped all the wires on the harness, and I am just going to do one wire at a time here so that I don't have a mess, and I'm going to use my chart. So if I look at my chart here that I made and I look at the Jeep, white wire on the Jeep goes to the gray wire on the stereo. So I will take a butt connector, attach it to the white wire on the Jeep, crimp it down. Now if you want to solder these, you could do solder as well. And then I'm going to attach that to the gray wire. Now there's a couple gray wires. Let's make sure I got the right one. One is gray and black, one is just gray. So I'm going to use that one, put it in there, and crimp it down. Alright, now I'll just keep on keeping on until I've got all of the wires on my list checked off. Alright, so after a couple minutes you should have something that looks like this. Now the hard part is done. I probably ought to take some zip ties or some electrical tape, wrap that up, make it a little bit cleaner before we shove it back in. And if you have any leftover wires that you're not using, make sure they're cut clean and you don't have wires sticking out, both on the auto side and the stereo side there. Alright, so the next step is to figure out how you're going to get your new unit to fit inside here and bolt in. Now, as before, you can buy a bracket a lot of times, depending on your model, that will fit your new unit and also fit the bolt holes right there. But usually I find that you don't need that. You can just slide this off and then take your old bracket, and we'll take these screws out, and usually there's enough holes on these new ones that it'll fit somewhere in there. Alright, so make sure you take the faceplate off of there so you don't scratch it. And depending on your setup, you might want to take this plate off of here too. And then you're going to take your old bracket and see if you can fit it up to your new stereo. Now, I see one hole that'll fit, possibly two. If not, you might have to do some modifications and drill a little hole here, but I'll see if I can get a couple screws to fit in there, and then it will mount right up. Alright, so I got that bracket to mount up. I could only get one screw on each side, but I think it'll be alright. If you want to, just drill another hole if you can't get 4 screws to match up. Now what we'll do is go ahead and connect the harness and the antenna. There we go. And then I will push the wires in, make sure they're not going to get stuck or caught. As you can see, this bracket has a clip up at the top here that hangs it from the top. So we're going to have to make sure to get that up in the little spot that it belongs. There we go. And now if I can find the screws, I can screw it down. Alright, now let's put the dash on, and hopefully everything will line up. There we go. There. Now, if your dash will allow you, you can put this little trim ring around it. Not sure if it's going to fit on here. Actually, it does. There we go. And that'll just give it a little cleaner look. Now let's turn it on. First, I got to connect the battery. There it is. Oh, such beautiful music. Great stuff. No, just kidding. I can't let you guys listen to the tunes on here. Then I would get banned from YouTube. So you just have to take my word for it that it does work just fine. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to check out the website, BleepinJeep.com. We've got all the best off-road videos on YouTube, none of the boring stuff. We've got hats and t-shirts, Jeep apparel, and discount coupon codes, and other cool products like muffler bearings and flux capacitors. Leave your comments below. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask, and we'll see you on the next video. Take it easy.